Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Max Warframe. Today we're going to be revisiting a weapon I reviewed some time ago, a weapon I called a contender for the worst weapon in the game, the Kohm. This weapon has been one of the most requested that I revisit over the last couple of weeks. However, I wanted to do it properly and put a full build on the weapon, so I could judge it to the full extent of its ability. Now the thing about the Kohm is that when it was introduced, it had some absolutely horrendous stats, with a base damage of just 15 and an ammo consumption that made the Amprex look ammo efficient. However, in update 15.7 it was given a pretty noticeable buff, from that very low 15 damage to 25 damage, and also a reduction in the ammo consumption of the weapon. Both of these changes, combined with a pretty average 10% critical and 10% status chance, have changed the Kohm from being one of the worst weapons in the game into being a pretty reasonable shotgun. The lack of damage fall off, the innate punch through on every shot, huge amount of pellets when fully spooled up, and the ability to ricochet the pellets off the wall really does complement the Kohm quite a bit. It does still have some downsides, however, obviously the ammo usage. Even with the fact that it's lowered, it is still very high, and while you can get away without ammo mutation in the majority of the game modes against the Grenadier and the Corpus, obviously excluding the endless missions, ammo mutation is pretty much mandatory against the Infested and any of the higher level Void missions. Even that is only a bit of a band-aid, you're still going to have ammo issues. However, with that mutation, it is mitigated to some extent. You could also combine the ammo mutation with the Shotgun Scavenger Aura mod, or even a Necros to further alleviate the ammo issues. It also has horrendous accuracy at full spool up, unless it's controlled using mods like Tainted Shell. There is also one other thing that I'm going to class as a downside to this weapon, and it's not something I've ever talked about with a weapon before, and that is performance issues. Currently a Kohm at full spool up with max multi-shot is pumping out an absolute ton of pellets at once, and that on its own can be bad enough. The joke being that you're not only firing all your ammo at the enemy, you're actually firing your host's FPS at it as well. However, when you combine the Kohm with Mirage at full speed, then the results can be an insanely low FPS or even the game crashing entirely. So just beware when using this weapon so you don't accidentally cause any crashes. You don't want to lose any of that loot now, eh? Okay, so we've had a look at some of the stats of the Kohm. Let's move on to looking at how we're going to mod it and how we're going to former it. Now it comes with a D polarity as standard, however we're going to add another 4 former to the weapon. I know it says 5, but I'll explain why a little bit later. Now we've got 4 mods are going to remain the same between all 3 of our builds. We've got Prime Point Blank for damage, Hell's Chamber for multi-shot, Shotgun Spaz for fire rate, and Tainted Shell, which is going to decrease the spread of the weapon at the cost of that fire rate. Now for our Grenadier build, we're going to go with Blaze for extra white damage, plus the heat damage to combine with Charged Shell and bring up radiation damage. And then we're going to go with Toxic Barrage and Frigid Blast to bring up viral damage, plus boost our status chance up a little bit more. Now against the Corpus, we're going to go with Charged Shell Frigid Blast, which is going to bring up the magnetic damage against the shielded units, and Toxic Barrage, which is going to deal with the fleshier Corpus units like your techs and even your nullifiers. And then we're going to add the shotgun ammo mutation, just to help with that ammo economy. And in the Void, with our 4 corrosive projection build, we're going to go with Contagious Spread and Frigid Blast, which is going to bring up the viral damage, and Blaze, which is going to bring up the extra heat damage, plus it's also going to bring in the extra white damage to the weapon. Now if you want to go for a full corrosive build, which will work either against the Infested, or if you're not running the corrosive projection in the Void, you can change out Frigid Blast for Shell Shock and it will bring up that corrosive damage. Okay, so now on to my recommendation as to whether I would recommend the Kohm and whether it's worth the resources and the former. And the answer is absolutely yes, it is now. Ever since the damage was increased in the 15.6 update, the Kohm really has taken on a new lease of life. It immediately shot up from being one of the worst weapons in the game to being a weapon that can theoretically pump out one of the highest damage per second in the game, albeit at the cost of that ammo usage. The grind to put that 5 former on the weapon was actually one of the most fun I've actually done in quite some time. And I have to admit, after saying in the previous video how much I hated the Kohm, 5 Former and 1 buff later, I seriously do not regret putting the Former on at all, and have been having some epic fun with it. That focus fire using tainted shells seriously means that taking down heavier units with that insane damage is now plausible, where beforehand the damage wasn't really high enough to do that effectively. I also find there's a huge amount of irony to the way I form with the weapon. In my previous video I talked about that depolarity and how useless it was, and out of habit I just formed it straight off the weapon, only to realise my mistake later and put it on again because of that tainted shell. In terms of different things you could do with the Kohm, obviously you should try and max out that prime point strike, and arguably that tainted shell if you're truly min-maxing. If you want to combine that with the 11 point elemental mods instead of the dual stat ones, you're going to need another Former. Personally, I enjoy having that slightly higher status chance and spreading some of that status around. But that is completely personal preference. Obviously with the Grineer build you could run radiation and cold damage if you wanted to get that ammo mutation on there. However, I find that in something that isn't endless, it's barely needed. You could also remove tainted shell against the infested if you wish, and that would increase the spread again, and make it more of a room cleaner against those smaller infested units. Again, that's completely personal preference. I prefer to take down the heavy units with the Kohm, and then mop up the smaller, lighter infested units with a weapon like the Torpedo, and that combination works extremely well. So in essence, the Kohm, once one of the worst weapons in the game, now an absolute enemy shredding powerhouse. It's gone from the beast into the beauty and has really stamped its place as one of my most fun weapons, and a weapon I've been having an absolute blast with. I guess it's true what they say, never judge a book by its cover. The Kohm's truly a surprise ending after a very poor beginning. Just to let you guys know, I've decided to extend the entrance to the 75 Platinum Code giveaway until this Friday the 16th. All you have to do to enter is to head over to my Paris Prime video and comment on that with what you consider to be your favourite weapon right now, to be in with a chance of winning. As for those subscriber requests for weapons, I am working on them. I have a ton of requests for builds from everything from frames to melee weapons. They are being worked on, plus a couple of weapons you might never have considered before, so stay tuned for those. As always, thank you all so much for the amazing support. Please remember to like and subscribe, it helps me out a ton, and I shall see you guys in the next episode.